Cheers, y'all. I recognize I may not be looking super healthy right now, but 2020 has been a wild and crazy run. Dear Diary, I would like to talk about NASA, Diary, because NASA put out a call today in honor of Halloween to talk to people, and peoples would be me's and you's. And NASA asked everybody to send them their favorite conspiracy theory for a Halloween live NASA thingy. And they said you got bonus points for sending in your best conspiracy theory to NASA for the Halloween video if you made a video response. So I was like, yeah, hey, okay, great. I can do that. I can make a video response, God willing, by Halloween, right? So that's crazy. I got a couple conspiracies I would like to talk about. And then, man, Betelgeuse has been dimming again, right? While everybody else is paying attention to other stuff, and everybody's got their own passion issues or things that interest them, or subjects that they aren't totally knowledgeable about and would like to learn more. The stars are one of them. And so the fact that Betelgeuse has been dimming has been like one of the biggest stories since 2019, in my opinion. And then this week they were like, yo, dude, Betelgeuse is closer than we thought. I was like, hey, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Like if you and I, Diary, ever got a chance to sit down and have a beer, man, I could talk to you about stellar theory for a while because it's a very fascinating subject and few people have scratched the surface on all there is to know about the main sequence, which is going from like a cloud of gas and dust asterisk to like boom, baby star. And then somehow you get a bunch of planets. Oh yeah. Was it talking about? Oh yeah. And so just planet and star formation is a giant thing. And then light. Like what light is. Other than a divine magical thing. Like we don't know a whole lot about light. Light is a whole lot more fantastical, majestic than we ever give it credit for. They're like light and the sun are something like that's the coolest shit ever. Well, some of it, you know, and it's very divine. And so, man, that's why when they're like, yeah, the speed of light travels at, 3.1 million miles an hour. Like, yo, buddy, why don't you get a light stopwatch? So you can stopwatch, like beams of light. See, like, how fast did that light go? Because they just average a constant for the proposed speed of light. Because they say light travels like a bus. Different, asterisk. And so the whole, like, yeah, I don't think we know everything about space, time, and light. That's kind of been one of the foundations here at Thor News for the almost 8 years of, like, we don't know a lot about all this shit, man. And there's a thing called money. And at this point, after like 30,000, 50,000 years, money has somehow really gunked up the conversation and communication systems that Earthlings use to communicate with each other. And so, like, information's fucking crazy, man. Like in 2020, it's like it's where the whole world's become like a giant echo chamber. So for like 5 years, everybody's been focused on like the 2020 election. We're like a giant echo chamber. It was like if stormtroopers from Star Wars, instead of going out with laser guns and riding on bikes through Endor. They were just sitting around tweeting. And I've been a stormtrooper in that regard. I've tweeted definitely. And so, like, the whole focus has been on the election. So it feels like no one is putting any thought into what happens after. I mean, any realistic thought. And when I say that as me, the T, the guy who's been with you, the guy who's been talking about natural disaster, teamwork, strategies, defense, how our Earth is changing. And I put out like a 3-year warning or more on like, look, man, the whole West Coast of the USA is going to be on fire. And so we've had that knowledge for at least 1,000 days, and we haven't done much with it. So here we are. I mean, but, you know, I got to give a shout out to the Atmospheric Defense Team, AF, Asteroid Fight Club, Prayer Warriors. They're like, so far, since the whole Selena Asteroid Fight Club All-Star thing, hurricanes have, like, we've been winning a lot of battles as far as hurricanes go, in my opinion. Like, almost all of them. Asterisk. Anyway, what's it talking about? Oh, another thing, Dear Diary. I don't know if people know this, but, like, dude, I've been doing Thor News for, like, 8 years. Almost. And for, like, when I started Asteroid Fight Club, the steps that lead me to that was like I was focused on the sun, and then, you know, the other planets, and then like asteroids. And Russia had that giant meteor that like blew out a bunch of windows and shit. And then, you know, at that point I saw the need that like, look, man, we're going to have modern teamwork solutions to deal with these global planetary problems that most of us inherited. So we got to start getting ready to team up now. Anywho, but so like for 2 years, I was like, oh my God, I'm worried about asteroids. At some point, I was like, you know what? I'm just not that worried about asteroids anymore. And we haven't had a asteroid hit Earth or like do any major damage since like 2015. And my videos about asteroids are minimal, except for asteroids as metaphors for anything that can destroy civilization or bring it to a halt, or like technically the plague, the pandemic is a fucking asteroid, but that bitch is slow, like a tidal wave. Anyway, and so what I'm saying is, so like often I see all across YouTube, every time there's like even a 0.1 asteroid, people are like a couple 0.3s. People are like, oh my God, asteroids everywhere. I'm like, man, they might kill us. I'm like, dude, have you guys not even been paying attention? You know? They're like, things we could worry about or try and be concerned about. Like you got volcanoes, earthquakes, fires. So we seem to have hurricanes under control. The plague is fucking killing like 6,000 a day across the globe. That's a major fucking problem and shall continue to be a major problem for probably 2 more years. And so, like, out of all the shit you can pick to tell people, like, oh man, guess what? I know it's times it's like, I don't know, man. We got like 1,000 Americans dying every day because of the plague. So, just not that asteroids seem minor in comparison. And even hurricanes. Like, I freaked out in 2017 when thousands of people died in Puerto Rico. And then now we got like at least 1,000 dying every day since March. And as Leo King said, that like both sides are being played. I mean, that like everyone, we're all being played by both sides. That was a quote, Leo King. We're all being played by both sides. That's kind of what I've been saying the whole time. Like, yo, bro. That like everybody's been focused on money. Another thing, you want to know how I started freaking out? In 2006, 2007, 2008, I started doing a whole bunch of learning about economics. We're talking Federal Reserve, Treasury, bonds, debt, credit, double bookkeeping, mortgage-backed securities, shit like that, interest rates, LIBOR. And I saw that like every monetary system in the history of mankind, at some point they printed way too much and the shit just fucking exploded. So just your economy craters on you. Whatever, whether it be rocks or seashells or dollars or gold coins or magical digital coins. At some point they print way too many. And so that was like the first thing that really got me. If I hadn't freaked out about that, there was no way I was starting a YouTube channel in 2012 where we got into like the sun, planets, asteroids, comets, stars, space agencies, technologies, extraterrestrial life, dimensional life. And so we used to worry about hyperinflation, or at least talk about it from like 2006 to like 2012. And then at some point, people were just like, fucking hyperinflation is a hoax. And technically, they could be using the cryptocurrencies to sop up the extra liquidity, which would help prevent hyperinflation. But when they added another tube from the digital currency to the fiat currency, like 2 days ago, that was a huge deal, dude. And so Kim.com was talking about the election, and then talking about Twitter's censorship. And so a curious question came to my mind. Who loves money more, Kim.com or Twitter? And, money's never been my thing. I like being cool, funny. I used to be super handsome way before, right before I started this channel. And I think the world has to come together. And then when that happens, everything's going to be fucking amazing. But I was watching parts of this documentary. It's a 16-part documentary from 1977 called The Age of Uncertainty. And it was 16 hours long. I probably only watched like 4.5. And it was pretty much talking about war and the economy. And in 1977, it laid out the premise. Now, this is going to be fucking big picture shit for y'all. That a lot of people out there get just super triggered by trigger words. And like their brain shuts down because they don't have an imagination, or I don't know, man. Words are dumb. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that in 1977, they were presupposing that we would eventually have global socialism because with the rise of the corporation and the stock markets, that the corporations would strip the people of their basic needs so badly that at some point the governments would have to step back in just to give people back a basic right to life, happiness, health, food, health care. And in it, there's a part where he's basically saying, and you will know you're getting close to that point when the corporations become too big to fail. I'm like, whoa, shit, dude. We passed that point in 2008. And that was crazy. And so, as Planetary Defense Commander, being this deep into 2020, watching the last 5 years, escalatingly so, everything be just focused on money, it's a weird zone, man. And regardless of who wins the election, the next year and a half are going to be rough and tumble. Yeah, we are seeing the virus rates skyrocket across the fucking globe. Like, the whole world is shutting down again. And we are stuck in neutral. And this is happening with like 70% of the people wearing masks. And so it's just like I have said, that if you go back to like the last 5 plagues over the last 2,000 years, how it works is it lasts about 2 to 3 years. And the winter waves are strongest. Personally, I think that like we literally manifested this shit with like our negative energy because we've been so negative. And we got rid of the space shuttle. We got rid of like comedies. We got rid of like rock and roll. Like we eliminated everything cool just so we could be totally focused on politics and making money. And so lo and behold, in 2020, like the divine correction manifestation was just like, oh, did you get too cocky? And yes, we did. But cheers to everybody for keeping it together this long. And that like humanity needs leadership and fellowship. And that at the end of the day, you didn't ask to be born here. So I believe to step beyond being a caveman, yeah, dude, you got to do what they did before World War II and have like a CCC system to where everybody gets fed, everybody has a place to stay, everybody has lights on. And that like everybody's got to do at least 10 to 20 hours worth of work every week to make sure that their town, city, community, area is doing good. And that in this baby boomer 2020 election show, that has been the only show, definitely for the last 2 years, that like neither team or president candidate is offering honest, viable solutions that look like they're from the future or for now. They sound like they're old Ronald Reagan fucking policies, and that since the last 2 Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions, which happened in the 80s and then the year 2000, that we have been on a part of Reaganomics. And so, you know, like strong military, greed is good, keeping up with the Joneses. And so I'm watching this Age of Uncertainty, right, documentary, and they were talking about the stages of wealth. And I don't know, from like in the industrial age, And like the 1800s to 1980, pretty much from the 8th, maybe even sooner, 1500s, from like the 1500s to the 1500s to 1980. All right, follow me here. From the 1500s to 1980. Rich people's job was to show everyone how wealthy they were. Like it was a part of like, by being the upper ruling class or the better class, you had to display to everyone how wealthy you were. And so everyone in the town, everyone in the state, everyone, like, you had to pretty much put all your wealth on blast. And that it was who could live the most extravagantly. All right, but the 1980s came and hit, and the wealthy went underground, Pluto style, underworld. I mean, if you look at the most rich, like everyone always says Rothschild, 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 but if you're following like the richest families of the last 220 years, there have been a lot of names that have switched in and out that no one ever says their name again. At least not, And so in the 1980s, it was like a whole thing when they created the debt credit markets with credit cards and taking out giant loans, not only for your car, but your house, like living beyond your means because you would have a steady job for the next 30 years. That became a thing. Like it changed like completely where like they were giving out that's when they started giving out 30-year loans to everybody. And they were like throwing the loans away. We all know about it now. And then in 2008, it was kind of like the 30-year loan. It was like, if you look at Donald Trump's, when they put out his tax shit, he owes like $421 million. And he owns all this shit. And that if you look at on the principal paid down, meaning that like if he paid any principal or paid any interest, like he either paid nothing or paid the minimalist shit you could pay on that $420 million worth of credit. But and it's a whole depreciating taxes thingy. So it's like the entire economy of wealth is like a giant fucking house of cards. But so, like I said, that the 30-year loans really became popular and original in the 80s. And so what do you know? 28 years later, we had the giant credit freeze, boom, pop, smash, where they were like, oh my God, 7 banks failed in the same day because everybody unloaded these mortgage-backed securities, which were basically any type of a debt, mostly mortgages, where if you took out a loan for $100,000 on your house, that they would buy the debt, and that on paper, if you paid every payment on time, that they would make like $32,000 off your $100,000. And so they treated that mortgage-backed security like a $132,000 instrument. Does this make sense to you? And then they took everybody's mortgage and chopped them up into like 20 little pieces and then stuck all the mortgages at different banks, different bonds, different investment firms. And that so it allowed them to shuffle most of all the bad shit, like the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mae, all the like really bad debt, all the no doc loans, the like when they were giving out loans, like just to the, no matter if you went and filled out an application in the 80s, you could pretty much get $100,000 to buy a house, like. And interest rates were 15%. Meaning, if you kept $100,000 in the bank, at the end of the year, the bank paid you $15,000 a year. Interest rates are now at 0%. You have to pay banking fees, fines, and they're even talking about going to negative interest rates where you have to pay to keep your money in a bank account. Cheers. But at the end of the day, people can't handle the big picture stuff. Say what you want to about the Federal Reserve System. You know, I've been doing a lot of some research lately on the Aztecs, Spanish Inquisition, shit like that. And that the 1913 to 2020 period was pretty dang peaceful overall comparatively to history before that. Like the Europeans came over and killed 28 million of 30 million Americans in the 1500s. And then stuck like 2 million Europeans and 500,000 African slaves in there to start to rebuild everything in a European way. And the USA was founded by pirates, bro. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that, like, technically, I would give the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the system that kept it all together and kept us advancing forward, you know, B minus, B plus, somewhere in there. And so we're now in the grand transition. And I think I've been talking about it since the 90s. I was talking about YouTube in the 90s. You could ask my friends. I was like, and someday we will all have our own channel. You can make anything you want on your channel, but the hard part will be coming up with original content every day that is high quality shit. That's me in the mid-90s. They say that Sagittarius is the visionary of the zodiac. Also, when I was looking back, Saturn goes around in 29-year spans. And so when I was 19 years old, I was playing football as a freshman from Midwestern State. And we had 3-day practices in 110-degree heat. And then during practice, I would go, and then we would take lunch or breaks, we'd take like 3 meal breaks. And it was a buffet that, you know, the university paid for. And so I would eat like a zillion calories, and then you go work out with the team every day in 110-degree heat. We did 3-a-days, dude, in the summer. So I would lose weight even though I was eating a million chicken fingers and honey and butter and a million Cokes. But then I sprained my ankle. And so I was out for like 6 weeks. And I still ate with the team. And I gained like 70 pounds. I went from like 195 pounds to maybe 200 pounds to 265, 270. And that was the last time, and I was probably that fat for, I don't know, 2-3 years. So that was the last time, 29 years ago, Saturn was in Jupiter. I'm sorry, Saturn was in Capricorn. Capricorn is very restrictive. And that's what's weird is at that time I was playing college football, man. But I knew like, yo, dude, I want to make films and videos. Because, you know, I've been writing screenplays and making videos since I was like 7 years old. Or I started writing screenplays at 13, 15. And before I started my channel, I was only focused on making movies, writing screenplays. Videos was like small potato shit to my arrogant self back then. And so when that all happened, I left Midwestern State, lived at home for like 2 years, and then went to the University of North Texas because they had a fucking fantastic film school. And so I went there until I finished my first screenplay. My senior year, the first screenplay I ever wrote, I handed to a friend. He handed it to his mom. His mom knew rich people. They handed it out. And in like 3 months, we had people talking about making my screenplay with me directing for $500,000, and then it steamrolled in like 1.2 million, then steamrolled into 3 million. At one point, My script is going around. It's called Detour to Austin. It was a comedy about three friends who have no money, no friends, no car, and have to get from Lubbock to Austin within 24 hours or their $100 million winning lottery ticket reverts back to the government. It was kind of like that Vegas movie with Bradley Cooper, but in the exact same, but in the format of the lottery ticket. And that was way before that fucking movie came out. Anyway, so I got offered to work on a film with the guy who directed The Empire Strikes Back as a producer. And then I was a screenwriter in town in 1996-97 for a year. If you think I'm cocky now, man, I was so cocky then. Anyway, what was I talking about? So I'm just saying the last time in my life, 29 years ago, when Saturn was going through Jupiter, A, I got super fat. And then B, like my life totally changed direction. And another thing, no disrespect, but when I played high school, you know, you grew up with most of the guys, so most of them were your friends or family. But we had like more, we get like 5,000 or 6,000 people at the high school games in high school. At college, we get like 1,000 or 2,000. Not that was a big factor, I just thought that was weird. Anywho. So, you know, the whole Jupiter and Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn, Saturn and Capricorn, I think this shit hasn't happened for like 80,000 years. I might be jumping all over the place. I have had 7/8 of a beer. But what I was trying to say, so from the 80s, in the two Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions, one happened in the 80s, one happened in the year 2000, one is going to happen in December, that was when, so for 400 years before, the wealthy were like, we have to show everyone our wealth. And then in the 80s, it transferred to keeping up with the Joneses. So the wealthy went underground with their wealth and their publicness. And then they put the impetus on the average Joe. They said, greed is good. Make as much fucking money as possible within the bounds of the law from 1980 to 2020. At the end of the industrial age, which took us into the digital age. So like 1980 to 2000 was the end of the industrial age. And then in 2000, we entered the digital age. And so, look, man, for 8 years almost, I have done what I could to bring y'all the best information. And technically, I've looked at it as like, I'm your professor, I'm your planetary defense commander, Asteroid Fight Club, the Astonishers, American Bicycle Club, that some type of teaching and leadership and inspiration falls on my shoulders, or I wouldn't be calling myself these titles or picking up these mantles. And so, remember, in my mind, we avoided World War III in 2015, the John Teeter shit, the like Back to the Future 1988, 2020 shit. And so, and we were less arrogant then. And everyone was way more open-minded, especially around 2012. And that now to watch, like even the truth community that I've been a part of, like they are all so negative. And they have all boiled it down to like the dumbest subjects that like people were like, we are like, the conversation is not being advanced at all. And then here we are, 12 days before the election, which has been like the giant baby boomer show that they've been preparing for 60 years. This is their big show. And so, you know, to watch how many in Generation X or the millennials or the amount of people who've got just mentally caught up in that circus is definitely blowing my mind. Because whatever the sun is doing or is going to do, or the weather or our core or Betelgeuse, like that's the big story, man. That like we should all be spending this time to it's like God is telling us to get back in touch with the heavens. It's like forget everything you were ever taught and look upon the heavens with wonder, like we know very little. It was like at the end of 2015. Me, Jack Steele, Apollo, Fitzroy, we went to Houston and NASA for a day. And man, we had so much fun that day. It was, to me, it was better than any day at Disneyland ever. But it was really sad because like our space program was clearly now a museum. And then fast forward 2 years later, they're having the Super Bowl in Houston. And they're doing a NASA media function at the Houston NASA for the Super Bowl. And like I applied to go. And at first they were like, no. And then a month later they're like, we changed your mind, you can go. And I went. And A, I was late. B, if you watch it, the only video I've made on it, really, I show one sun, the sun, and it is clear as day that it is not, whether it be a planet, a second star, a ship, that if you watch that video, there is clearly another planetary body there, like without a doubt. And so that was cool. But, so I get to the NASA thing, and when I'm late, when I do get there, it's when like everyone is talking to the people on the International Space Station. And it's in a giant auditorium with a giant screen. But I got to spend the day going around talking to like people that work in subsea or oceanic stuff. I got to talk to like International Space Station people. I got to talk to James Webb Space Telescope people. I got to talk to Raytheon people. I got to talk to Boeing people. I got to talk to Lockheed Martin people. I think I got to talk to Boston Instruments people. Like I got to like the whole day I was getting shuffled around. And I got to go spend 10 or 15 minutes asking questions with all the groups. And whereas at the beginning of the day, I was with my group. They split you into like 2 or 3 big groups. By the end of the day, they had me like walled off. There was like they had 5 people with me from NASA. And I was all by myself. But I still got to do the rest of the tour. And so, and then at the very end of the day on the bus, there's like 5 or 6 or 7 NASA people. I'm in the back of the bus. They're all kind of sitting around me, and it's just me. And I just cried my fucking eyes out. Because, yeah, dude, like, I'd asked everybody, when are we going back to the moon? When are we bringing back the space shuttle? So, like, all 12 groups I talked to, they were like, we are never going back to the moon. We're never bringing back the space shuttle. And so that was my day, going around asking all 12 groups. Although, if you were a defense contractor, I said, hey, if your team was in a war versus Lockheed Martin, Boston Mechanics, Boeing, Raytheon, Bell Helicopter, Mars Candy Industry, who would win? And of course, everyone voted for whatever company or corporation they worked for. That was my day. And so, to have everybody tell me we're never going back to the moon, we're never going to bring back a space shuttle, at the back of the bus, I just fucking bawled my eyes out. They're like, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm just sad that NASA's a fucking museum. But here we are, October 22nd. And Space Force is less than a year old. I don't know when I started being Planetary Defense Commander. Was it 2014, 2015? But Space Force was created on December 20th, 2019. My birthday is the 19th of December. And when Jupiter and Saturn, both on the same day, go into Aquarius on the solstice, it will be December 20th, and the next day they'll lock up in their grand conjunction on the 21st. And Space Force has 77 spacecraft. I don't know if you knew that. And people on the left seem to make fun of Space Force all the fucking time. And that, like, I have to remind people, like, hey, man, Space Force is officially the 6th branch of the United States of America military. So it's as real as the Marines. It's as real as the Navy. It's as real as the Air Force. It's as real as the Army, the National Guard, the Coast Guard. Well, one of them I think is not officially, but you know what I'm saying. And I think if we ever do have a 7th military, it will probably be like spiritual or metaphysical or mystical. Oh, see, I gotta remind people, hey, it's an official branch of the military. And so whether it's Donald Trump as president or Biden as president, Space Force is still around. 10 years from now, as long as we don't all die, Space Force will still be around. And that somehow, when it comes to outer space, since the Cold War, all nations have been working together as a team. I mean, we've pretty much had the Russians taking care of our International Space Station for God knows how long. Which gets us back to, look, man, since February, I've told everyone that I believe that the virus is real. Yes, both sides are screwing us. But the virus is real, will continue to be real, and is a real fucking problem of like how we're going to deal with it regardless of who wins the election. Like, it is a serious situation we will have to deal with for the next year and a half. And we do not know how strong it will get in the winter or as it evolves. Like, if it was created in a lab or not. That everything else in the solar system appears to be evolving, and our star field. And so the viruses will probably learn to evolve as well. We have a million reasons to team up and evolve together as one. And just as after 9/11, the world was never the same. After the coronavirus, the world shall never be the same. And that we have had, for lack of a better blame, the collective hydra of Wall Street / Madison Avenue to gain money, power, and control since the mid-90s. They've been poisoning the narrative well, turning man versus man, mother versus mother, friend versus friend, townie versus townie. And so it has just been a straight up use digital, the monolith, and social networking to divide and conquer the people on every fucking level. It's like I was saying, who loves money more? Twitter or Kim.com? Or Elon Musk? And that Capricorn, which Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto are in and have been in, represents status quo, old school. And so like we are at the very end of the like 1980s greed is good stage. Because there are many men and women who stand opposed to ever having some type of Europeans wipe out 97% of American situation that happened in the 1500s to create the United States of America. And never fucking forget that. And one of the things about studying, if I understand correctly, the weird differences of like, it seems like in the 1500s, you know, like in Spain, they were sacrificing people in the Spanish Inquisition. And then below what would end up being the United States of America and Canada, that like the Aztecs and the Mayans were and the other groups were sacrificing human beings. That was part of their economy, part of their religion, part of their educational system. Like you had to sacrifice human beings to please the gods and make it rain. But if we understand correctly, the Native American, like USA, the Cherokees, and those groups, they didn't sacrifice people. And they definitely weren't sacrificing like 30,000 at a time. And so, yeah, there are definitely people who are trying to prevent any type of corporate fucking bad religion depopulation strategy. And the craziest fucking shit about the coronavirus, look, man, I am Thor of Thor News here with you, and I've laid it all on the line, tried to give you the very best information I can. And that I don't give a fuck if you're a Republican, a Democrat, Libertarian, that you know, at the end of the day, has medicine cured cancer yet? What, have they fucking cured anything? Have we, lost in the vaxxer, anti-vaxxer debate is the fact of, like, how did diabetes and autism fucking explode exponentially post-1980? That, like, if you break it down in a lifetime, is it really cool to have a medical system that basically makes like $3.6 million off of every single human being in America or the planet? And so just like we know, they're probably not going to announce that they cured fucking cancer yesterday. They're probably not going to say they got rid of, or that they figured out how to scrape lungs for lung cancer, or because it's not cost effective if in a profit-based system. And when you have privatized prisons, like we're in it's really weird how close it is to a lot of the rules and procedures that were in place during the Spanish Inquisition. That's where a lot of the actual laws went on the Magna Carta book. And so that, like, any information that has come out about vaccines or cures, or whether it's in the air, or whether you get it through phlegm, or what fights it, what doesn't fight it, that, like, you've got to know that they're not going to fucking work real hard to tell everyone the information we need to know. That if you've been paying attention, you've got to see how unregulated capitalism is super dangerous in the nuclear age. And that unregulated capitalism is a hydra of many human beings and at the end of the day, we're all human beings. So, like, just like the information we're going to get on the coronavirus, it's not great. The information we're going to get on the moon, NASA's like, we have a major moon announcement on Monday. I was like, 5% chance it's that they found water on Mars. They're like, the James Webb Space Telescope. In 2014, I investigated that fucking thing. I was like, yo, dude, this thing is never going to launch. It's 2020. It is not scheduled to launch until 2023. And they started working on it in 1995. Remember, like, Galileo was putting together telescopes that if they can put 20 to 50,000, I mean, Elon Musk has put up like 2,000 satellites in 2020. So taking 25 years and $20 billion to put up a telescope that is better than the Hubble telescope, like, you got to be working real fucking hard to make sure it doesn't happen, and no other projects are put into action in case it never launches. And I've always said if I was president, I'd probably hand $1 billion to Lockheed Martin, $1 billion to Raytheon, $1 billion to Boston Mechanics, $1 billion to Boeing, and say, I want everyone to build me the best telescope possible. And I want it within a year. But the fact that, like, we don't have fucking 64 frame GoPros over 20 parts of the United States of America that we can all watch on live stream every day. Like, we've had that fucking tech. The fact that we don't have GoPros around the moon that are on a live feed all across. And even GoPros on the backside of the moon in infrared. Or day for night cameras. Like, technology has been stuck in the fucking mud since JFK was murdered. And the technology they did roll out was the cell phones, which is something that, like, Nikola Tesla came up with in like 1890. And so just as I was telling everyone, we are going to see some major volcano action and wildfire action in the year 2020. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that has figured that out. If you have a lot of the good solid data has not been given to the public since we have been in a war and petroleum economy of like 1888. Like, I forget, was it like 1865 they came out with the Eiffel Tower? And the Eiffel Tower was kind of like a symbolic representative of the next, of the oil phase. They put up the Eiffel Tower, and then within 30 years, they had over 30,000 oil derricks that just looked like the fucking Eiffel Tower. And so last night, I've had 2 major nightmares in October. And the first one, I don't know, I think one of the dudes was an alien from outer space. Or maybe he was from the center of Earth. He was like 22 feet tall. And the gist of it felt like we were mad at you. And so, like, they were chasing me around and killing me. And there were dinosaurs and lakes and oceans. And, like, I would die, but then I would be alive again. And then I'd get chased and get killed and be alive again. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. And that dream, I remember being like, I want to wake up. I want to wake up. And then you wake up and you're in 2020. And you're like, better, but still not like it used to be. And then last night, I had the same dream. It was like I had a giant teams, like dinosaurs and like super gang shit, like from other planets, chasing me, killing me. And then I come back to life and the same shit starts all over again. It was just like endless. And then like I woke up in 2020 and I was like, fuck, what if we are stuck in hell? And that this is a bad simulation and that somehow we're just going to be tortured by the universe endlessly forever. Like whatever, whether it was another life or something to where like there was an overruling divine architect spirit that created cats, dogs, and horses and was like, you know what we're going to do with the giant system of life? We're just going to torture human beings forever. And so I was like, well, if that is the case, I'm just going to do my best. And I'm trying to have fun in hell. I'm going to tell some good jokes. Because I still think over the 8 years, I know what I've gotten like 15 million, 17 million views on the books. I think I have generated at least 50 million laughs on planet Earth. And that is one of the things I am absolutely the most proud of. That I have generated millions of laughs over the last 8 years. And technically I did it since I was a class clown, fat kid. But, you know, once I started making videos, the numbers got bigger. And then I definitely believe laughter is a divine and beautiful action and event. And that laughter sparks joy. And that good laughter heals. And that in this tragic comedy or comedy tragedy that is life, laughter's magic. And Darwin has no fucking real scientific reason for why you would need laughter. That like laughter and love and light are divine things. That people who are like, there's no such thing as love. Like, yo, dude, have you ever seen a cool person with a cool dog? Have you ever seen a cool person with a cool cat? I watched David Letterman's interview special. He interviewed Dave Chappelle, and then he interviewed Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. has like a farm with llamas. Anyway, like animals give you back the love that you give them. And that if you've ever had a dog or even a horse that you treated well for a while, you can absolutely see the love in their eyes or in their energy. One of the dogs we used to have, we may still have her, I don't know. Sissy. Super cute. Anyway, I did this thing where one night when we were in Denton, like in 2011, we were super partying with all the cool kids. By kids, I mean like 25-year-old musicians. And me and Eamon had to run to go get more alcohol and then run back to the party. And so we were running full speed, and I was in really super perfect shape then. You know, like 215 pounds, super great shape. And I stepped in like a 2-foot hole as I was running full speed. And so it caused a giant, massive bruise on my leg. And for a while, my mom would be like, that's probably going to cause a blood clot and you might die. I was like, all right, mama. I hope not. Anyway, so Sissy used to walk up to me sometimes and then smell the blood clot area because it still had the bruise for like years, a decade after. 7 years. And so she used to smell it and then look at me real worried. And then I would get real worried. Anyway, dogs are fantastic. So like, I absolutely, like, just like I believe in God, without a doubt. And I believe in love, without a doubt. Because I know that I am capable of great love. And I love people. I love animals. I love the sky. I love the sun. I love God. I love Jesus. I love Jupiter. I love Mars. I love Saturn. I love Venus. And the fact that, like, my grandpa was named Miller. And I'm drinking a delicious Miller beer with the woman in the moon. And that, like, humans did so many amazing things up to this point to give us these super laps of luxury. Cheers, Tom. And cheers, Cody. And cheers, Asteroid Fight Club. And so yesterday, before I had the nightmare, like, I haven't gone live much in October because the energy has totally fucking sucked. That, like, I have to admit, dear diary, that, like, everyone's constant negativity all the time after the December 2019 eclipse run till now, like, it just wore me to the fucking nub. Like, no matter what subject, there's always... that just people's constant negativity, just like yesterday I felt hopeless. And then I had a dream where I got killed like 20 times. And I woke up, was freaked out, went back to sleep. And then I've been in a very good mood and very optimistic today. I dare say today might be the best energy I've felt all October. And there is a chance for me personally, this 5.5 year span where Saturn first went into Sagittarius in the middle of 2015, that like this weird fucking gauntlet of me being surrounded by supervillains constantly and pushing on a string where no matter what I did, what I said, it never seemed to break out of the box. They're like, who knows? Cheers. Yesterday might have been my personal negative energy peak for a long time. And I go through weird phases where people threaten me, whether they be overt threats or passive aggressive threats. And it seemed like, I don't know, from the 25th of last month to about 5 days ago, there were a lot of threats I got. And my hackers were being total dicks up until about 5 days ago, and then they just stopped. You can tell because I made like 2 edited videos. And so here we are in the spooky month, and I am still alive. Although I died a lot in my dreams last night. And another thing, like, I have been without a car. I was chasing after Selena Gomez in a wild goose chase Christmas night of 2018. Anyway, that was the last time I ever got to drive my car for more than a minute or two. It was a beautiful Mustang. It was like 2003. It was gunmetal gray. It looked like the Batmobile. Saved my life a million times. Its name was Spirit, but I called it the Mach 5 or the Mach 1. I love that car as much almost as I've loved animals. Anyway, so I've been without the car, which I think it helped with my weight gain. Anyway, my mom bought me a car. She's like, you got to pay for it, $2,500. And that was like at the end of July. I don't know. After like a month or two, she's like, well, you can finally pick it up in September. And so I was like, well, A, we haven't worked out how much I got to pay or in the payment deal. And then B, I was like, look, man, I think the reason I lost my car, because I got warned they were going to fuck with my car the night I went out chasing Selena, that I thought people were going to be losing their fucking minds so much up to the election and possibly, I don't know, a couple weeks after. I was like, can we hold off till after the election, mama? She was like, yes. Yes, we can. And so at the beginning of the year, in February, I laid out an entire fucking strategy for the entire year. I told y'all what my personal strategy was going to be. I was definitely prepared to play maximum defense and take the virus super seriously. And that if all I encountered was trouble, no fun, obstacles, hackers, bullshit, threats, that I would hang on because I believed things were going to get better for me and for us in December. And here we are, October 22nd, right in front of the big debate where the baby boomer grand show. And yes, I definitely think I'm a better leader than Donald Trump or Biden. And I'm not saying that as like an arrogant thing. I'm saying that I believe in the potential of people and teamwork, and that I know that the group that got us from 1913 to 2008, that they handed over like everything. And so like we are in negotiations for the future. And that every single one of you makes a difference. Every single one of you has power. Every single one of you has influence. And that we are all in this together. And that the people who like to just say that like end times are coming, or like the Agenda 2030, or like the Illuminati are going to fuck us up. To me, those are like lazy people who like have no imagination and would much rather, instead of looking at an intimidating future that is wide open for all of us, just kind of handing everybody a bumper sticker. Going, hey man, flat earth. Hey man, Agenda 2030. Hey man, Illuminati. Hey man. And that shit played from 1999, Y2K, until now. And the craziest shit was that a very popular phrase amongst half the Americans, or a percentage, was trust the plan. We heard that shit 100 times more from 2016, trust the plan. So now here we are in 2020. And it appears there was no super solid plan, at least on a public or global public information level. And I think that is what scares everyone the most, is that there is no plan. And just like in 1913, when they laid out a 100-year plan, it is now our time, our responsibility to lay out our 100-year plan. And that if you think of Earth as a united family, together we can prevent whatever type of face, butt, fuck, depopulation, indentured servitude, extension of this really mean fucking anti-human system that has been in place since 1999. Like, it has definitely been 1999 till now has been the period of Mars fear and terror. That like we have been being ruled by our worst fears. And I discuss often, you know what's so weird? I don't have children. And it blows my mind, the people out there who are Christians that have children and yet subscribe to some, the devil's gonna butt fuck us in the face. Illuminati's gonna take us all over. End times are coming. Like, bad guys are gonna win. Agenda 2030, like, I just can't. I don't know how your faith in God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit can take you to a purely negative place. And I could be wrong. Like, after that dream, maybe we will end up getting tortured for eternity. But from my age, since the day I was born until even today, dude, I have had so much fun. I have done so many amazing things. I have heard so many great jokes. I have told so many great jokes. And up until I made out with Taylor Swift. I kissed 100 beautiful women. And I get to share hundreds of great meals with people. And that, so up until now, I do feel like I have been the luckiest person on earth. Like here, like my job, I get to get on camera, drink beer, vape, smoke. If I want to get fucking fat, I can get fat, dude. If I want to get my face rendered in a tomato, like, and I just get to make videos about the things that I think are interesting while trying to play defense and keep the grand transition moving forward without any major fucking World War III or total technology Spanish Inquisition shit trip. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't think of another job I would rather have in 2020. And I definitely think the next year and a half, which are not going to be cakewalks, no matter who wins, like we're in this stubborn position where Wall Street and Madison Avenue have convinced everybody that, like, we can't win, we're going to lose, it's going to fail, it's hopeless, you're powerless, divide and conquer. And that is definitely biting the entire system in the ass with the coronavirus. And that by breeding such discontent, getting us to work together for the next 6 months to a year is going to be really, 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 really tough. And that we will witness all the things that don't work anymore break. All the things that are attached to 1888 or 1980. That, like, we are in the future now. That, like, the age of Aquarius definitely begins in December. So I've asked all my good people out there to do what you can to raise your vibration, improve your attitude, and find a new frequency going into the December 21st, 2020 Jupiter-Saturn grand conjunction. And them going to Aquarius the day after. Like, this Christmas season is special and magic. And that humans are amazing. We are still the greatest technology in the universe. And that we are going back into an early 90s vibe. And that world peace is not only possible, it is probable. And that the latest timeline I hear being discussed in a shorter term fashion is 20 years. More pessimists say 30 years. And you know me, I think we should have done it in 2017, 2015, or earlier. And as a Norse Jedi Christian, there's nothing about my belief in God and Jesus Christ that prevents me from studying the heavens, being humbled by the heavens, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, whatever shooting stars I might see, the clouds, the sun, the moon. They are divine, godly things. And then at no point in time does my belief in Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Prince of Peace, tell me that, like, oh, yo, dude, end times are here. Rapture's coming tomorrow. New World Order. You motherfuckers just give up. Make no short-term, long-term, medium-term plans of teamwork and improving the world around you. Because, fuck, man, devil's coming soon. And I want to tell you again, like when they invented, the New Testament came out in 70 AD. Like the horse and carriage. People were like, Mark of the Beast. 666. When every invention in mankind that was new and changed the world, they were always like, evil, Mark of the Beast, the devil. And like, we still fucking do it. With whether it be the radio, the car, like every single invention in time, electricity. And then like we do it now, like whether it be the internet, cryptocurrency, www, like everything gets accused of being the mark of the beast. And us human beings, Christians, have been doing that for like 1950 fucking years. That like people as an ambassador to Christ have chosen fear, or that their imagination has limited their understanding of God. Just like the Aztecs, who were like, hey dude, we gotta sacrifice all these people. Like the modern version is like, hey man, we can't improve shit, and we just have to let the free markets make all the major decisions. Because my interpretation of the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel says the rapture / end times are going to be here. That somehow the message I took out of God or Jesus Christ is that we are going to fucking fail and get our ass kicked. I'm going to get another beer. What time is it? And so no disrespect, dear diary. That's what I'm just saying, that like, man, for 20 years, it has just been negative. And people with like the crappiest imaginations being the loudest and being given the biggest platforms. And look, man, no disrespect, but like, fuck, Trump is just like the ultimate doomer right now. He's like, if I do not win, and he's got like a 20 fucking piece list of why the world is gonna fucking end, or why everything is just going horrible. And you know what was crazy about the film that I watched, The Age of Uncertainty, that basically said corporations would end up stripping everyone of their basic rights to the point that governments would be forced to institute global socialism, meaning you take care of people's basic needs. You feed them, give them a place to live, give them health care. That in so many ways, when he talked about the kings, when he talked about history, when he talked about the wealthy, when he talked about people from the 80s and beyond, he basically said all businessmen are the same. Meaning that, like, if you came into this world and out of all the talent, like the talents and gifts that God or Jesus, the universe gave you, at the end of the day, if your primary creature or energy focus is to make as much money as possible, then all those businessmen are the same. And that if you're trying to understand things, it is time for people to separate the good, cool, good people of Earth that elevate family and friends and animals and the world around us above those who consider making money the main purpose and goal of life. And so we have kept ourselves in like self-narrative bondage. And it is not necessarily the rich or the wealthy that have done this to us. It is those who wanted to be rich or wanted to be wealthy or wanted to be famous. So in a post 9/11 world, fear and terror have been what pretty much everyone has been selling. Not everyone, but I'm saying that like that has been the root of the petroleum and war economy. That we weren't going to have wars in Vietnam anymore. We weren't going to have Korean wars anymore. And so you had to create a war that was not being fought with bullets, tanks, and guns in people's minds, to where you were being attacked with fear energy or terror energy every day at your house, in your home. They're like, Barack Obama's coming to take away your guns. And you know what? Barack Obama is the fucking Antichrist. And that at the end of his presidency, he's going to kill everyone that is not a Muslim. And then he is going to unite the UN. And then they were going to kill everyone but 500,000 people because they did some blood pact in Benghazi. You know, like that shit was definitely fucking popular from 2008 to 2016. They set up Barack Obama as like half the people like as the worst like demon villain the world had ever fucking seen. And that he was there like destroying America, destroying the family, like destroying everything that was holy. And dude, in retrospect, Obama was the best president of my lifetime. And I think if you do want to judge man, look at him with his wife and his kids. So like, yeah, who did I want to vote for this year? I wanted Tulsi Gabbard. She didn't make it. And so now the choices are Biden and Trump, and I really wish I could vote for Obama. Technically I could. Although, like, but I'm saying that, like, I think Obama was cool, although the entire Democrat machine was way fucking out of control. You know? Like, I wish I could talk to y'all about, like, look, you had to know since the year 2000, which was the last time Mercury went retrograde, by the way, on the day of the election. Like, if you weren't an adult who was paying attention to politics in the year 1999, to me, your overall picture of the world we see now isn't complete. It was a super contested election, and I always saw it as George W. Bush is actually a good guy and definitely probably one of the funniest people out there. But his father, George Herbert Walker Bush, who was like the front run king of the baby boomer power planners, that like his dad, when he was head of the CIA, and that like he had always had a plan for their team, the Republicans, to continue to keep and maintain power. It's the American democracy game. And so it is no coincidence that even though they were both born in New Hampshire or wherever, that like George Bush was raised in Texas and then like, and ended up being governor of Texas. And Jeb was governor of Florida. Where like, if you're looking at it like a risk game, that if you're trying to win the presidency, if you nail down Texas and you nail down Florida, you've got that piece of the puzzle. And so that like the strategy to win in the year 2000 had been in place or being contested since like 1980, since the post-Reagan era. But as we saw, like, but that whole plan seemed to, like, the end of it, where we had 3 buildings fall from 2 planes in New York, one being Building 7, which fell on its own footprint. It was never talked about. Anyway, I'm just saying, compared to the Clinton disgrace, and my post, I was hard on Barack Obama when he was president, and I didn't vote for him. I voted for Romney in 2012. Because I was mad that Obamacare didn't keep costs under control, and that like you get fined if you didn't get it. So I got, and he definitely was drone striking as many people as the Bushes. So like I was upset with Obama during a large portion of his president, though I voted for him in 2008. Anyway, in retrospect, he was a great fucking president, man. And he was a cool guy. And anyone who, like, and the military did not fucking fall apart. We didn't get fucking invaded. That, like, he inherited an economy that had fucking totally crashed. And that life under him, except, and that was when the, like, Obama's the Antichrist shit happened from Fox News, like, every day. Where, like, they talk about Benghazi, like, not, like, anywho. But then, like, going back to grade Clinton, Bill Clinton took the Glass-Steagall Act, where he and a Republican Congress passed an act that was passed at the Great Depression, where investment banks cannot own savings and loan banks. That was what caused the Depression, because all the banks gambled all the money away, made everything too big to fail. And so they had to come up with Glass-Steagall, separating your checking and loan bank. And remember, while the Glass-Steagall Act was in place, interest rates never dropped below like 5%, I don't think. And they were as high as 15% in the mid-80s. And so that by Clinton repealing Glass-Steagall, that was one, no one paid attention to it, but that ended up being the thing that led to the most erosion of rights, civil liberties, and just runaway truck. Oh my God. Like, you would not have had a financial collapse in 2008 if Glass-Steagall had been in place in 2001. And so that in 2000, and you had to know now, just like they're not telling you the fucking truth about the coronavirus, and it's real, but I'm saying there have got to be ways you can fight it. There have got to be, we have to know more about how it's transmitting. We should be understanding more now about it and how to deal with it together. It is real, but they're forcing out, like, they're not giving us good information. And so even with the 1999 and the age of the internet, remember when the internet blew up, the stock markets blew up because everybody was like pets.comming it and everybody was like investing and everyone's like, yeah, we see the potential of everything going digital. And then they totally fucking crashed the markets. And so Johnny Average, your low-level millionaires, everybody got out. But they knew at the time how giant it was going to be. And so from that point with Glass-Steagall and with them fucking sucker punching the investing public on the power of the internet, that like Wall Street has been in charge, and definitely since the 2008 crash, that like we are absolutely without a doubt being run by a collection of corporations. And if you think they are all super united on every level for a negative purpose, then I have to say you do not understand the power of women. Because since the dawn of time, the most beautiful, alluring, charming, womanly women have always had the power to pretty much disrupt any group of powerful men trying to have a dick measuring contest between each other. If you understand what I'm talking about. Although I do think the group that has kept us alive and civilization standing for the last 100 years, there has been an unspoken agreement of honor and fellowship and brotherhood. There has been honor among pirates and witches for the last 100 years. But the honor system seems to have taken some fucking severe hits, like having to explain to people why you have to feed everybody or you have to help everybody out and we have to work together a team during a fucking pandemic. And that is another reason why I think, dude, bro, my friend, all the shit I've been saying about the virus since February, that it definitely appears like it caught 99.99999% of people off guard. And that from February to the election, a lot of the power players have instituted very short-term thinking. That like as Planetary Defense Commander, assessing everything, like the whole world needs a plan on how to deal with the next year and a half. That's just the way it is. And that somehow we're gonna have to work it out. And I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm like naturally optimistic. And I'm Planetary Defense Commander, so if I thought we were gonna fucking fail, I wouldn't be doing this. I don't think I would have been doing it for 8 years. I'm gonna get another beer. And it's definitely weird that, like, we watched the fire situation. Whoa. We watched the fire situation. Ah! Oh my God. Oh, what's happening? It's trying to be funny. It's funny legal. That was not charming. And so we are 12 days away. And so, like I said, yesterday we hit like a new case record across the globe, which is weird with 70% mask upmanship. And reports have come out, as I told y'all, that like they're undercounting the fucking numbers. And so like 40% of people, and definitely like 100% of the truth community, or 98%, have told y'all that A, it's a hoax. Oh! It's like Apocalypse Now. Ceiling fan. It's a joke. What's it talking about? I don't even know. 2 beers in, I'm toasted. Anyway, you've had like tons of fucking people explain to y'all that the virus is a hoax, or it is no worse than the flu, or it is just gonna fucking go away. After the election, even the president keeps saying it. And so we are 12 days away from seeing if like all the people that bet it would just fucking vanish on the 4th or 5th. And I am 99.9999999% sure they were totally wrong. Like, man, if you are tracking all the people that have gone into hardcore lockdown again, it started with Israel went first. I told y'all, look, what I'm going to do is from February on is I'm going to watch Israel, Russia, and probably India real close. So, because I know that Putin and Netanyahu have been in office for 20 years. They're not letting the American media, you know, they're not, and they get good data, they're not they're not as heavily, I mean, so that was what I said and have been saying. So like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Israel went back into super hardcore lockdown. Putin at one point said, we're just going to open everything back up. That was like 4 months ago. He was like, fuck it. We're open. Like 3 doctors got thrown off roofs. And then he was like, hey man, we're going to open everything back up. Well, this week he was like, we're going back into lockdown. And so since then, I don't know, Ireland's gone to lockdown, like France is going to lock, like Spain's going to lockdown, like Mumbai is going to, like the new strain or the virus or whatever fucking reason, it is getting worse. And so I'm excited because the election has allowed people to live in a fantasy land for the last 8 months, and that fantasy land is gonna be over one way or another. Even if Trump is president, they're like, it ain't fucking going away. Thank you, Dan. The beer money. And so I, as one of the guys in the truth community that has said, hey, it's real. It feels like everybody else has been like, no, it's fake, it's a hoax. It's just a flu. And that even the president has said, so they're faking it just for the fucking election. And so the rubber has not met the road yet on that. I mean, it has, but people aren't paying attention and they're not paying attention. And so the rubber will hit the road after the election. Regardless of who wins. At some point, people are going to recognize we're going to be dealing with this shit for at least another year and a half. And that the stock market runs the vaccines. Right now, all vaccine information. It's going to be a stock. It's like if it was a startup. Of course, they're going to say everything's great, everything's going to work. And then when they start trials, people are going to start dying. Although miracles are possible. But that's a whole different thing. Even if they did come out with a vaccine, you still got so many people predisposed to not fucking taking it. And it always blows my mind because I don't think people recognize how inefficient government really is. Just like the people who try to sell y'all that they're going to come take your guns. I've explained many times how you would need 5 to 6 armed officers or soldiers per house to take away people's guns. And at the moment you try to take away people's guns, you would lose half your military, half your police. So that, like, it's just, they can't do it. It's not going to happen. So you just got to get people to stop shooting each other. And I'm saying back, like, it seemed like the viruses went away in the last 2,000 years after a 2 or 3 year span. No matter what the virus was, it kind of left. This one may or may not have biologically altered, which only increases the reason we should be watching out. Its characteristics are fucking unlike almost any virus. And like there was a 28-year-old woman who died on a plane from Arizona to Texas the other day of the virus. Like, so yeah, some people, it's not going to affect you at all. Some people, it doesn't matter how old you are, it's just going to fucking kill you. And definitely, it kills more fat people and older people. But it also has killed more Hispanics and black people than white people. And it kills 70% of men and like 30% of women. All right, great. I must be toasted, man. I've had 2 beers and a sip. But I'm glad that I got to talk to you guys. And I'm letting you know I'm going to continue to be optimistic. But I'm heavily relying on God, divine intervention, and miracles. I'm definitely looking for some giant Christmas miracles this year. Because believing in free will, it doesn't seem like we've made a lot of great choices since February. And that people are still living in some weird pre-coronavirus world. Think of it, it's like 9/11, because the whole world changed after 9/11. And it took us totally off guard. It's like if people back then, like 50% of them believed 9/11 never happened and was a hoax. That's what it's like now. So either dealing with the virus, or if we did get a vaccine, it's going to be complicated. But I'm not giving up. Isn't it weird to think about, like, what if you did die today? Technically, I don't think I'm going to die today, but my face is red and I'm definitely overweight and the virus is out there, so it's possible. And then people are still mad at me, I imagine. But just the idea that, like, the world will still carry on without you and me. And then if I did die today, I would feel at least in the moment, a bit incomplete. So I still feel there are big questions that I would like to get my hands around the answers of a little better before it is my time to go. But since I'm telling y'all everything, I'm talking to you like a buddy. Do you know what is kind of weird and funny? I'm going to talk about politics. It's my tricky. What time is it? Like in 2016, remember that now the Trump team strategy in 2015, 2016 was super fucking brilliant for winning an election. The entire time they told everybody 96% chance Hillary was going to win. Trump doesn't stand a chance. Trump doesn't stand a chance. You know, before then, they accused anyone who might have been able to help Hillary out. They accused him of pedophilia or eating people, Pizzagate. They literally like nullified anyone who could have helped Hillary's campaign out. And their big October surprises, if I remember correctly, like I didn't vote in 2016. The thing that fucked me up was when I saw that Planned Parenthood video when the person was like, yeah, we sell baby parts. They released that, was it like a month, 3 weeks? That was a super body, like that was. And the scientific establishment for the last 2 years had literally been coming out saying that like God isn't real. You had Bill Nye being like, there's no God. And you had like all the main scientists being like, there's no God. And like I said, they said like Benghazi was some giant super mega thing. They built it up. They built Obama's the Antichrist. And that in the public's eye, Trump had always been super successful at anything he'd ever done. Even when he went bankrupt, he was still had a beautiful wife. Like he still lived the Trump lifestyle from the 80s on. And so they, just like in 2000, the Republicans had a genius strategy to get George W. Bush in office. And so, you know, Trump's Secretary of State, was it? He was the CEO of, was it Chevron or Shell? It was Shell. He had one job in his life. He was the CEO of, he always worked for Shell. He was the head of Shell. So, like, he was the head of state, just like a Rumsfeldian. Anywho, so it definitely seems like whatever team was behind Trump did not have the same vision that Herbert Walker Bush had had. And so it has been kind of clear that the world has had to adapt to the post-coronavirus world, and that their team was dead. That's just not their, it's not their strength. As far as I know, no matter who wins, I'm still your planetary defense commander. So cheers to that. And so, yeah, I gotta do a video about NASA conspiracy theories. I want to ask why NASA hasn't taken a picture of Eris since 2005, 2006. What about the conspiracy theory that the James Webb Space Telescope was never designed to launch? But one thing I do want to point out is that, like, I know guys like Kim.com, who's from like New Zealand, I think, and then Elon Musk, who's from Africa. They definitely seem invested in who wins an American election. And definitely from the people out there that watch me, there are a lot of Canadians I know who are as much into Trump as Americans are. And so we're doing a transition from the 1980s to 2020 businessmen to more of a grandmother approach to taking care of the people of Earth. Because if there is a war for the future, it is definitely not between nations. It is between economies. And that we have seen Google, all the tech giants are like bigger than nations. So like, I think that's weird that like Elon was from Africa. You know, he spent part of the year trying to convince people that the coronavirus was no worse than the flu, that they should just open everything back up. And the people who are like, hey man, it only kills 99.46% of the people. I'm like, okay, but if everyone gets it, that's still 3 million people dead. And if I'm trying to prevent 5,000 people from dying in a hurricane, I'm definitely trying to prevent 3 million Americans from dying from a fucking virus. And so one of my big predictions is after the election, they will revise the numbers upward. Because even if you look at the stats on overall deaths, they've done multiple studies now that like the overall deaths of Americans is up, I don't know, like 10%. And we fuck it up, we could definitely push that shit to 20 or 30% in 2021. And so my strategy throughout life has pretty much been, look, I'm going to do the best I can with whatever hand I'm dealt with. And so 2 weeks after the election, I think people are going to get a better picture of what we're actually dealing with. I mean, New York just extended its no eviction rule till I believe January. And that in the last 2 weeks, we've seen countless major countries go back into full lockdown. So, yay! I think I might be buzzed. And that my whole thing about us working together as a family and as a team is as solid today as it's ever been. And that whether you want to call it CCC like we had in 1930s or universal basic income, that we're definitely going to have to do some major revisions to the world and our economy as we know it. And there really, in my opinion, are no good arguments to why we shouldn't be feeding everyone every day. But as I've warned, I'm being super duper over optimistic today. And from watching the Age of Uncertainty documentary, I believe that they have known since at least the 70s that like some type of global socialism, for lack of a better term, to where you got to feed people, you got to keep the electricity on, you got to figure out something with healthcare and credit, debt, the entire world, global $100 trillion in debt. Like, you have to do something to work together as an Earth family team because we all inherited this, like the $100 trillion debt. And then it definitely seems like the rich people have been front running everybody for 20 years with some form of this information. Because like if you own 10,000 acres and have $1 trillion in a socialist system, like you're not taking away the 10,000 acres and the $1 trillion from that singular person that had it. You're just talking about giving everybody the basics at cost. Yeah, okay, one more beer and then I think I'm done. And so I think we'll get to world peace anywhere between tomorrow and 20 years from now. Okay, 10. And I definitely think I'll be alive to see it. And that as a Norse Jedi Christian who's belief is founded in the two laws of Jesus, where it says, love God above all else and love your neighbor as your family. That there is no good argument to ending war. There's no good argument against ending war. Like, you can quote whatever fucking passage out of the New Testament as a reason why you shouldn't have world peace. But to me, your vision is no greater than the fucking Aztecs or the Spanish Inquisition. And it is a weird balance now between the ancient word and the living word. We're going to see what happens, aren't we now? Because I'm probably buzzed. But like, whether it be the age of 7 on, I used to dream of cities of the future. And then in the 80s, they were like, there shall be no cities of the future. So I watched a film on the 7 wonders of the world. And so I would love to get back to an old school, classic, humble architectural style that is an art form unto itself. Because if you let the free market decide what the cities and the infrastructure of tomorrow are going to look like, well, you're looking at it, buddy. Just going to be a shitty version of whatever the fuck we've had for the last 40 to 60 years. And we will not have any space trucks. But I definitely think that the rest of October and November is going to be pretty fucking crazy as well. Cheers to y'all. I haven't drank since the last time I went live, which was like 11 days ago. Because they say alcohol is a depressant, and the October energy has not been super great. But we knew the October energy wasn't going to be super great. Thank you. I love you too. And I definitely plan on having some cool parties in 2022, 2023, and hopefully beyond. That right now, today, I came up with like a mind goal. I want to have the coolest weather Twitter party, whether it be in 2022 or 2023, ever. Though, because whether Twitter is all geeks, dorks, and nerds, we are going to party super hard, but we are going to party smarter. Because as soon as I said it, somebody was like, shots, 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 shots. And I said, okay. But before everyone goes to the giant weather Twitter party, you're going to have to fill out an Amy Santiago 10 drink level questionnaire. I don't know if y'all have watched Brooklyn 99. I've basically been mainlining like Cheers, Brooklyn 99, Parks and Rec, Frasier, Into My Veins on rotation since December. Anyway, but she had a different personality for every drink that Amy Santiago, a captain in the 99 Brooklyn Police Department, that like every, like up to like 10 drinks, and every drink she had a different personality. And so if you were going to party with shots, very Asteroid Fight Clubby, you need to know your own limits of what you can and can't do. Because learn how to control yourself when you party is definitely one of the most important things you can do as an adult. One, you got to learn how to party smart with good people. Two, when choosing a future mate, that would probably be, whether it be dating or marriage, that would probably be one of the most influential and important decisions you will ever make in your entire life. And when you choose to date someone, your life path will totally branch off into a new area, unlike anything you will really do other than a new job, new career. So if I was passing on wisdom, yeah, learn how to party smart and try to choose your lovers wisely. I'm definitely toasted. Woohoo! Man, if you've just joined us, NASA's called for our conspiracy videos, our conspiracy theories, and they want you to put it in video format if you can. I guess it's before October 31st. And I would have to guess that you could get out of the North or South Pole to get to the moon. And I would guess we are on the moon. But who knows? Mars could be in control. Or there could be tiny living micro pieces of glass or monsters on the moon, which is why we haven't been back. I don't even know. There are so many aliens. Do they exist? Valiant Thor. Was he really from Venus? And am I a son of Valiant Thor family? And if the answer is yes, I'm sure I'm not the only one. Although I would like to see my overall scores compared to all of them. But it's weird, like NASA's main centerpieces have been to put like all robots on Mars. And if it's going to be a rocket that could transform space travel, space shuttle's not allowed. And the SLS rocket has been as clunky and dumb as the James Webb Space Telescope. Oh, I should go before I say too much. But at the end of the day, there's so much we do not know. And so regardless of who wins in the election, I'm just excited that like we can start going forward again with our thoughts and imagination. So the only new technology they've really given to mankind was like the smartphone. And that was to help, make money and then control the people. But other than that, we have not been given any of the new post-1980 technologies. Which feels very Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto in Capricorn. And that the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction has taken place for the last 200 years in Earth signs, which is like home materialism. And so in December, it will be the first time in 200 years that it will not be taking place in an Earth sign. And it will be the first time in 800 years that it will be taking place in an air sign. And air signs supposedly represent like surprises and the future and air travel. So like we'll be hanging out in cities that float in the air. Like you and I, in like 5 years, if we're lucky. And that the technology advancement will continue. And so just as there was a major radical shift from the 8 years of the Obama vibe, because you had like the Clinton vibe for 8 years, and then you had the Bush vibe for 8 years, and you had the Obama vibe for 8 years. There was a giant, massive, radical just shift when Trump became president. And that I am almost guaranteeing you that in December, there will be a giant radical shift that will take place away from the old status quo that has been focused on kind of keeping us in the 80s to something that is more focused on the future and the people. And so as a Christian, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to make sure that we can keep everybody fed in the United States of America for just to start off the next year and a half, 2 years. And so if it's a Christian, you're like, hey, dude, we ain't got to fucking worry about that because end time's coming, rapture's coming, devil's coming. So we ain't got to worry about that shit. We just have to wait and then talk about all the shit devil's going to do when he gets here. That's like the weird, like the people who want to stay stuck in a 2019 mentality are definitely going to stay stuck in a 2019 mentality. The people who have spent the last 8 years betting on doom, or that like everything's just going to keep getting worse forever, they will probably be allowed to stay into that mindset until the day they die. But that ain't me, Chief. That we have advanced civilization for 30,000 years, and that as long as I'm here with you, that is part of my goal as well. You are carrying fear, though, Thor. Of course. I've spent 30 years dreaming of a period where somehow my mom and I just end up enjoying each other's company, and I get to have kids and she gets to be a grandmama. And so I fear that day may never come. Dude, I fear that I may never get to kiss a woman I consider the most beautiful woman on planet Earth again. I've got a tiny fear that maybe I was wrong and shit will not improve. I think a little bit of fear is always healthy. But I would like to say again, since I've been doing Thor News, dude, I've had so many threats against me. And I've even had real life encounters where people tried to hurt me or worse, and it didn't happen. And so my levels of fear have never been lower. And it's kind of like, all right, if we kick ass, raise our vibration, raise our frequency, respect that we are an earth family and that God loves us all, we have some great days ahead of us. And no matter what, that's going to take a lot of work and probably a lot of frustration over the next year or two. But that, like, since my stepdad died in 2018, I've lost 2 dads, and that everybody's been super fucking negative for the last 8 years, like, unbelievably. So that, like, if I died today or tomorrow, yo, dude, I have given it my all so hard. I've gone so hard the last 8 years that I do not have a girlfriend. I do not have a wife. I do not have kids. I do not have a fancy car. I don't have a giant house. I don't have that. I did the best I could with what I have while I'm here. And so that, like, I don't fear dying. And if you're just joining us, I died in my dreams like 20 times last night. Then I had a dream like that like 2 weeks ago. So I think I've had 3 nightmares in October, and 2 of them happened this month. And in the whole Christian religion thing, or just life, religion, death, life, death, I would like you to listen to the song called The Highwaymen by Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings. And that I feel like I'm in the Highwaymen family. And that I will get to live as a highwayman again and again and again and again. I don't think heaven is a static place that we just go and then we're there forever. That for whatever reason, the universe creates really cool people. I can hear a dog barking now. The universe definitely creates really cool creatures. But another reason for my optimism is that, like, in October, I've gotten to hang out with 5 people I consider friends in real life. And that total in October was more than like I've gotten to hang out with all fucking year. Because I've taken my defense very seriously. And, yo, bro, for me personally, 2020 has been a cakewalk compared to 2018. And so if my personal solar minimum was in 2018, then it feels like I've been steadily climbing since then. And 2025 is probably going to be pretty amazing. And when I think about Donald Trump or Biden, who are 73 years old or older, for me, that's like 25 more years on Earth. Like, if things don't improve, can you even imagine spending 25 more years on Earth? Like, if every year after 2020 just got worse on every level slowly for 25 years, I can't even fucking picture that. And I definitely think that is why I have gone so fucking hard since 2012. For years, I've been telling people, yo, man, I don't know why you're making 5-year or 10-year plans, because the world's gonna fucking change. What time is it? So it's like we all live in a Western town in the 1800s. And everybody's just yelling at each other. I think at the very start of this video, that was like my point of that, like, October is like peak echo chamber where everybody's just yelling at everybody about everything. And that amongst the masses, out of all the information I put out in the last 8 years, My reputation is no better than your absolute average Joe. But the people who have put out really bad information have been getting a really spotlighted platform and rewards, and that I think tables are going to turn and are turning, and that seasons are going to change. And that I definitely believe more people are dying this year than normal, and that death is around. And that replacing, I've heard more people say that like everybody's replaceable or interchangeable. And that I don't believe that is true with guys like Kenny Rogers and Eddie Van Halen. And if you want to throw Charlie Daniels in there as well, great. And that we've had a lot of very talented, very awesome men and women take us to this point. And now more than ever, we are being called on to be the leaders of our community and this world. And so by staying in my foxhole from the majority of time from February until October, when I went out with Autumn and Obi-Wan Jr. on the 1st, and we walked like 7.5 miles around Houston, went up and down, went down in the city and up in the skyscraper. I appreciated that 100 times more than if it happened, like once a week. When me and Fitzroy hung out on a patio and watched a super green Mars and Jupiter and Saturn in the sky. Mars was red and the moon was green. I'm sorry. The moon was super green. Mars was super orangish red. Never seen anything like that. And then there was Jupiter and Saturn. That moment, I super mega enjoyed. When I got to go with Apollo to East Texas to pick up a fish aquarium, because those things are big and heavy, I felt like a dog in a car sticking his head out the window. And that even though he played country music half the time, I was super happy. And the songs he played were really good. And the cool thing was, he played me some of the new album of the band he's in. And then one of the guys that I hung out on their couch for 3 years in Denton in 2009 to 2012, TV's Daniel. He played me new music from Sam and new music from TV's Daniel. And so I don't know how often you get to hang out with friends that play you brand new music that can fit into an Alan Jackson Conway Twitty mix seamlessly, but I have known that I was going through the hard times of the last 5 years so that I could appreciate the better times as they come our way. And the funny thing was that two of the songs that I got to hear that were new from 2019, from TV's Daniel, the first one was called Better Than It's Been, and the second one was called Maybe We'll All Die. Oh, and did you watch that Jack White performance on SNL of him doing the Jesus is Coming, Ball and a Biscuit third song melody? That shit was some of the most Asteroid Fight Club energy that I have felt in 2020. And like, if I did have some King Arthurian or better round table, it would probably be filled with guitar players, maybe one or two bassists and a drummer, one or two or three. And that great guitar players are one of the most precious resources we have on earth, especially for defense and helping keep morale up. I'm still processing the loss of Eddie Van Halen. Like, for me, if you want to simplify things, Eddie Van Halen definitely carried a Valhalla musical signature sound. And that, whether you want to say, because I think Valhalla and Wakanda are pretty much related, that like Prince, definitely Jimi Hendrix, like the guys who just bring an instantly mythological sound to earth. If I had to pick two guitar players who could do that, I would pick Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix. But then Prince brought in the funk. Where Jimmy and Eddie Van Halen brought more of a like knights in shining armors, hammers and swords and shields vibe and energy. Prince brought in more of like a, all right, everybody's in crushed purple velvet pajamas / evening wear vibe. And that is what's so crazy. From like the mid 80s to like the mid 90s, we were headed in the right direction. And then from the mid 90s, we got taken off on a politics is everything narrative. And it was also the rich and wealthy and powerful could front run a form of global socialism. You know, I've loosely described it as half socialism, half capitalism for 25 years. Like a Van Halen song and album, the best of both worlds. Is we either all have a responsibility to keep civilization moving forward, or we don't. I definitely believe we do. And as someone who last night got killed a bunch of times in my dreams, I'm going to do my best and see what happens tomorrow and today. You guys are great. Thank you for hanging out with me. Asteroid Fight Club, Dear Diary. people of Earth, lovers and haters, friends and family. And I think I warned y'all that like last year in October, November, I feel like I had the coronavirus and it was fucking horrible. And so I've gone so fucking hard from not only 2012 till now, but definitely the Christmas eclipse until now. And that I gave a solid 3 years basically saying, I don't give a fuck what they tell you. When you see the West Coast on fire and all the way into like Idaho and Colorado, magma and volcanoes are going to be involved. And so it looks like you got tons of fires going off in Colorado, which are breaking like fire records in intensity, speed, and like on every fucking level. And that natural disasters is like musical chairs. Doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't seem either one is overly concerned if Puerto Rico is getting overrun by a hurricane, or if Louisiana is getting hit by multiple hurricanes, or if the West Coast is totally fucking on fire. That like part of 1980 to 2020 has been like greed is good. It's a dog eat dog world. As above, so below. God created me, God created you, and God created everything all around us. And God is the universe. And the heavens are the ones who are putting on the show. It is so cool how for like the last 2 months, Saturn and Jupiter have been here, and then Mars has been over here. Like almost in a straight line across the sky. And then the moon has been doing its dance. Like the heavens are putting on a grand show for us all. So yeah, I'm betting on peace on earth and a magical Christmas for everybody. And just like I gained 70 pounds 29 years ago when Saturn was in Capricorn, yes, I'm fat and red now, but I got a feeling that in Aquarius, December, seasons will change. And I've gotten fat 8 times in my life, and I've gotten in really great shape 7 times in my life. So I'm looking to even the fucking score. At some point, we'll all get happier, healthier, physically, spiritually, and mentally. But that free will has a major role in this. So you are ultimately choosing your own future. That who you align with and where you go over the next decade is going to be based on your attitude and based on your outlook. And I love you. Merry Christmas. Talk to you guys soon.